The What If Podcast is a Free Bacon and Puppies production. For more daily content, please visit youtube.com/freebaconandpuppies. Due to foul language and adult topics, parental discretion is advised.
Welcome to episode 1 of the What If Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Hans, a.k.a. Mr. Moo on YouTube. And joining me today is Rob Harford, a.k.a. Dex Bishop on the Twitters and the YouTubes. Hi, Rob. Say hi.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
First off, I'd like to thank everyone for stopping by. And at this point, you've got to be asking yourself, what is the What If Podcast? Each episode is based on a single what if question. These are the type of hypothetical questions you might ask your friends and then spark an hour-long conversation. For instance, what if humans were as tall as giraffes? What if you had a real-life reset button? What if everyone could hear every thought inside of your head? Now, I enjoy doing pointless research, so I'll attempt to figure out a realistic or seemingly plausible answer to the question and provide some basic facts to support it. Then, myself and my panel will give our own personal answers and arguments. And here's where the audience becomes particularly important. We'll be posting this question on Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit the week before the episode airs. Some of those answers may be featured on the show. Now that we've got that out of the way, today's question is, what if tomorrow you began making 10 times more money at your job? How or what would you change? Now, when I posed this question, I thought it was an interesting twist on what if you won $1 million or what if you won the lottery, because those questions have been done to death, and it's always about getting a ton of cash immediately. The catch with making 10 times more money starting tomorrow is to get the money, you have to work the same job you're currently working. Now, for people who love their job, this is awesome. But for people who hate their job, is more money going to make a difference in how happy you are?
Yeah, that's the tough question right there, honestly. I mean, you're going to get offered all this money, but you have to consistently go to something that you're completely unhappy about.
That was one of the first things that you asked me about was, can
Yeah.
you improve your situation? Do you get a raise? Do you get to become a supervisor? Or do you get some sort of better job somehow?
No, I mean, for us, anyway, with our answers later, like, we decided that for the control, we need to just have the parameter of saying, you get the money, but you're currently working the same every day shift. You could be working at a damn McDonald's, and you've got to do that to make that money.
Right.
I mean, and you would have performance-based reviews and stuff to try to make more money. More power to you. But the money has no correlation with you getting a raise.
So if you're picking up trash, you're still picking up trash. If you're sweeping up floors,
Exactly.
you're still sweeping up floors.
I'll just say this: if if I was making like $10 an hour and they said, "Here's 10 times more to sweep that floor," I'm gonna be happy as shit. That's all I'm saying.
So let's get an idea of what 10 times more money would look like in the real world. I like to work in averages, so I looked up minimum wage in my home state of Maryland, and it's $8.25 per hour. That would mean that if a person were to work 40 hours a week, they would only have the potential to earn $17,160 in a year. Now, that's not counting taxes and health care and everything else that would make that take-home number even smaller. That's not enough to survive, so most people making minimum wage are on some sort of government-funded program or live with relatives because they can't support themselves. However, if tomorrow they began making 10 times minimum wage, they'd be making $171,600 per year.
Holy shit.
Now, I went and found the cost of renting an apartment in Maryland outside of the city limits, the average cost of utilities, gas, and other basic living expenses, and what the average person will spend to live in Maryland is roughly $2,000 a month. And this is just an average for argument's sake. There's definitely parts of Maryland that will cost you much more than that. You can always
definitely
get more things. But if you stick to that average cost of living on minimum wage, you would only survive 8 or less months out of the year. But making 10 times that amount, you would have a surplus of $147,000. That's an extra $12,250 a month.
Wow. And that's a lot. I mean, that's an increase beyond anything that any normal person's ever going to ever get.
Some
A month.
part-timers don't even make $12,250 in a year, and you're making that as an extra amount per month.
Dude, my first year out of high school, I didn't make that much money a year. I was working at McDonald's making $5.50, and that was 2004. But at the same time, minimum wage only went up $3. So, I mean, not even $3. It's like $2.75. So you're talking about trying to live on that, and then all of a sudden getting this big increase of an extra $12,250 a month. That's a lot of money.
The weird thing is, people tend to spend to their income. They close that gap. So when you start making more money, you would think, oh, I'm going to bank and save more money. But you end up spending more because you think you can, or because it's
Right.
available.
Right. That was the main thing when we were talking about this before recording the show. Like, just if you do get that extra surplus of money, are you going to be able to be like in a perfect world? I think some of the responses are going to be like, oh, I'm going to save this money. I'm going to do this with this money. I'm going to do that. But realistically, before we even get into the answers, like, is it plausible for a normal person to be able to do that? And I had come up with just a couple examples of, what you're kind of spending now if you're in a really low income versus what you could spend once you have money not to worry about, especially if you're just spending $2,000 a month on like living and then getting that $12,250 a month. So for example, if you're now, because you can't really afford the expensive shit, you're buying bread at 99 cents. You can now afford the like Sara Lee, like really good, awesome bread for $3.49. That's an increase right there. So
And you multiply that every time you need to buy bread compared to, it adds up. It's quick.
It adds up, and also the increase is like what 250% or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
So then you start to put that toward everything that you have as just your essentials. So when you start to think about like if you're still going to be eating at home, you're still going to be normally eating at home. So if you're like, I'm going to get a hamburger helper, so I need burger meat, $4.99 a pound, right?
Right.
Cheap ass crap. I'm not talking about like, ground ribeye or
You're talking
something
like
that.
70-30, like
Right. I'm talking about the stuff that people are like waiting for the sale to happen. Like, oh, Wednesday's coming up. Let's wait until we can get that burger meat on sale. You're like, you know what I mean?
you're waiting on the discount burger meat.
Wait until the discount, and then you take your grandmother with you for the extra 10% discount for senior day.
Look, man, people do it.
People got to do it. So like, that's another one. You got $4.99 a pound, and then you're like, okay, maybe I don't want to eat hamburger anymore. I've been doing this for 15 years. All of a sudden, they switch over to I can afford steak, $7.99 to $14.99 a pound, depending on the cut. And there's another increase. And then you've got stuff even as simple as hot dogs, man. They sell them for 99 cents. You can buy now the all beef, all kosher, $3 to $4 a pack.
Oh, yeah.
So there's increases on little things like that.
But that's
And
going
then-
from like the mechanically separated chicken all in one meat
Yeah,
casing.
spam dogs.
Yeah.
basically. So like, the whole point is like you're with closing the gap between what you spend and what your income is literally you're able to spend more so that I think it's like a subconscious decision to say, now that I have this, I should spend it.
Like
But
I earned it. I
Yeah,
earned
like-
this money.
Like I've
So
got
I
10
earned
times
the better
money.
things in life.
Right, exactly. Because nobody looks at their home situation and they go, I think I'm gonna keep buying this 99-cent stale moldy bread.
You know,
for
it's
the
a
rest
bit of a pride thing too, because when you have that money, you want to be able to establish yourself and say, I'm no longer shopping for my groceries at the dollar store.
Right, and that's more of a social economic thing too. So when you're talking to your friends and you're like, having a casual conversation about, I just spent $400 at the grocery store, and you're like,
Why?
what? Why?
What did you get? Was everything gold plated?
You know, in a conversation with your friends, basically how well they can live. And if they're saying they're spending that much more than you and you spend 150 and it's the same amount of people in the house, no kids, no nothing, you know that there's a gap there.
Right.
Some
Well, just a little insight on my own life. Last year, I was out of work for 2 months, and I was living on unemployment. And it goes both ways when you have that money, because I had no money to spend, so it was only money for bills and for groceries. And maybe
right.
we ate out maybe twice that whole time that I was unemployed. So you make that adjustment to survive. You don't continue to go to the grocery store and spend $400 when you only have $150 to spend on groceries.
Right. And that was another example too you brought up with going out to eat. That's another increase that a lot of people, I can say this for myself. When I got a really good job, when I was working in Maryland before I moved, I was eating out like like every day for lunch, man. And
It
I
was
could
convenient, it's fast, it's easy, and it
right.
usually tastes better than anything you're going to bring from home.
Right. Now if I did that, that's about $10 a meal because fast food is not really, convenient as far as price
Five
goes.
days a week, 4 weeks,
Right,
it's
exactly. And it adds
$200 a
up.
month just on lunch.
Just on that,
Just
and
on
you think
lunch.
about people spend $200 a week or maybe 2 weeks on groceries. So you're like really taking that, extra money that you could have and you're kind of wasting it by making a different life decision. And that was another point. It's like you start to lose control over your spending the moment you have more to spend. And it's for a lot of reasons. And the layman is not gonna be this financial advisor
If you were bad with money before,
immediately.
then you're probably going to continue to
Right.
be bad with money. So if you had a surplus of $147,000, I looked at some fun things that you could potentially do with an extra 100 grand. So here are some examples. A summer home in Sunset Beach, North Carolina, goes for about $96,000. Because why have one home when you can have two? You could potentially buy a jetpack for $100,000.
I'm down. I am totally down to waste my hours earning that $100,000 just so I can be like James Bond and have a jetpack.
Sweeping floors so you can
Sleeping
have a
floors.
jetpack.
Come on. I mean, that's a perfect cover story for any spy.
You could buy, I didn't know that there was a used market for these, but you can buy a used Lamborghini Gallardo with about 35,000 miles on the odometer for about $100,000. I don't know why you would want to buy a
Uh, what?
used Lamborghini, but you could.
I mean, that's one of those situations where you're like, "Yo, I got a Lambo," but you're not a rapper. And
Used
you're not
though.
rich. It's used.
You could go to every Formula One Grand Prix in the world with a friend. So if you like to travel and you like loud cars, might be your thing. And of course, I mean, every household should have at least one of these, but you could buy two. You could buy two diamond encrusted Bluetooth headsets.
I'm down. Sign me up.
It looks good. It sounds like crap. Clearly, you've got money to burn. Much more money than you've ever had in your life. But what blows my mind about the idea of making 10 times more than you currently make is that it's life changing for people who make next to nothing. But for people who make like $100,000 a year and are living pretty comfortably, in the matter of a couple years, if they save their money properly, they will be millionaires. So the people that were rich, now millionaires.
Because oh man, this is one of those things where you've got money on top of money making more money. So like those people who are already super comfortable is just they're going to be feeding the economy with like gold crusted $100 bills. Like cuz if you're making 10 times that amount, what if you're a millionaire?
Oh, if you're
I
making
mean,
$1 million a year and then you're making 10 times that amount, I don't.
right.
I mean, but
What if
but
you're
like, does that really make that much of a difference if you're that freaking rich? If you're
no,
making that
because
much more money, it's like
no, because like
I can already afford everything.
you can afford everything unless you go back to our previous conversation and you say you're spending to what you have.
I'd
So
love to see I don't know, man.
But you hear that all the
You
time, though.
do.
Like, think about all those billionaires who like used to be billionaires but aren't
And have
anymore.
filed
Now I'm not talking about
bankruptcy several
right,
times.
right. Like, oh, jeez, the Trump. So yeah, that's the point. Like, you can walk up to a homeless person and say that guy has $8 million more than I do because the guy is in $8 million debt because he made really bad financial decisions, but lives in a multi-million-dollar home, spends multi-million-dollars a year,
People that make
but
themselves
doesn't.
house poor. Like you buy a
Right,
house and you are spending all of your money to afford that home.
right,
Why would you do that? Why would you put yourself in a situation where you don't have excess money for in case shit? Because
right,
shit
exactly.
happens.
And that's well, I'm just gonna go into what I would do then. Because I feel like a lot of my friends would say the same answer. They'd be like, I would save money, or they'd be like, I'm just gonna blow it all on a new house and give gifts to my friends and all that stuff, which is to me not financially smart. If you look at any like statistics on people who have been millionaires, terrible idea. We'll get back to that idea later. But what I would do, since I already live in a semi-fortunate situation where I'm in a house, I've got a roof over my head, I would make sure that A, my healthcare situation is good because healthcare is extremely important. You don't want to get that fine. Um, so that means I could, pay for like a personal trainer or someone to like get me to the healthiest I can be so that I can continue to earn the money and also be happier so that when when I lose the money or if I lose the money, I don't go and kill myself because mental health is one of those things. But then I would also invest in myself as far as like education toward wanting to become an actor or wanting to be a better director by like getting the equipment and setting up goals and stuff like that and finding a financial advisor. You know why? Because I'm not smart that way. I don't want to be a financial advisor, so I would want someone to help me. And that would probably be my first step would be like, dude, I'm making 10 times more a year. Tell me how I should spend my money. And not somebody that's from like the hood, like, yo man, I got this scheme. I'll make you rich overnight. Like nothing like that.
Instant money, son. Instant
Right,
money.
right.
I got these
Inst-
ostriches. They lay golden eggs, dog.
Dog, sign
Is
me
that
up,
spray
bro.
paint on your pants? Yo.
Yo, that's
That's
yo,
that's
that's Gucci.
ostrich.
That's Gucci Couture right there, bro. Like, so what would you do?
Me. What I would expand on what I'm already doing. I would invest more money in music. I would invest more money into the YouTube stuff, into this
I agree with that too.
podcast. Everything creative that I really want to do. Probably try to film a feature length film would be nice. Just expand on all the creative things that I'm doing. But I would also, in the event that, because you never know when that money is going to go away, I would obviously want to invest in myself. And I think one of the best ways to invest in yourself, if you have that opportunity and that time, is to learn basic skills that you would have a laborer normally do. So do electricity stuff, do plumbing, do normal household things, learn how to take care of your home, because at this point I can't afford a home, but if I were to afford a home, I would want to be able to take care of all of those things and not have to pay a separate laborer to do that.
Well, in doing that, you would eliminate a lot of costs. You wouldn't be you wouldn't be making yourself poor by buying a house that needed all this repair work and not being able to know how to do it.
Right. And then in the event that if I ever were to lose my job or have to make ends meet or need extra money, I would have those skills to be able to do handyman work. I could go into a handyman business.
Right. Well, or if the zombie apocalypse happened, you would be that guy.
I would be your go-to. I
Like,
would be a
I
viable resource.
I didn't think about that until you said it, but like you would be that guy in a zombie apocalypse if you could
Nobody
fix a
knows
car.
how to clean out the shitter. Da, da, da,
You know,
da.
you know how to shit. You know how to shovel a latrine, boy. I'll teach you today. Like, what is that really going to teach you? Nothing. All right.
Okay, you've heard our answers, but now it is time to hear what the audience thinks. Every week, we ask the topic question on Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, and a few other places, and we'll feature some of the responses in that episode. So for your chance to be part of this show, be sure to follow us on Twitter at FreeBAP. That's the word free, B-A-P. And then respond to us when we ask what-if questions. So on Reddit, I got some people to respond, and user insert some name, that is literally his name, insert some name on Reddit, he made a good point that 10 times 0 equals 0. That's just sound math. It's just good math.
That guy definitely passed grade school. I'm so proud of this guy.
He's going places. He's not going anywhere with any money, but he's going places.
But he's going places.
User Warrior75198 said that nothing would change. He'd still have bills to pay, still have to come home to a nagging wife, and still have to get up every morning and go to work.
Oh, yeah. See, this is a smart guy.
This is exactly what we were talking about, how if you hate your life situation, no amount of money is going to make that better.
Right, because honestly, everything he said, you are still going to have a job. You're still going to have to come home to your situation. You're still going to have to not be able to change anything unless you make those changes. Money doesn't change that. Unless you're talking about, now I can afford a divorce lawyer. Sorry, Warrior75198, but that's what you might want to do.
Or maybe afford marriage counseling.
Exactly. Or go the other way. Sorry for being a negative Nance.
She's probably a nice lady.
She's a nice lady.
User Hemi Penis said he'd finally be able to buy a couch and upgrade to new non-broken shit. And that's what we were talking about, that closing the gap between your income and your spending. He's fine right now with this broken shit and no couch. He's living. He's surviving.
He's surviving, just like
but
a lot
if he had
of
the
us
money to,
low-income people.
he would invest in that stuff.
Right, and that's not saying that he would go from broken Craigslist to freaking
On cribs.
Gucci.
No.
Like, But that's, I mean, even though it's just one little statement and it doesn't really tell too much about who this guy is, just to say that he's going to upgrade from non-working materials to something that is functional, it kind of tells you about the state of our economy right now. Like, this is some random guy and doesn't make any money. We got another guy who doesn't make any money. Like, that's kind of where we're at right now. So this is a viable question.
Ain't nobody got no money.
10 times 0 equals 0.
User Pretentious Askhole, ASKHOLE, said $264,320 a month for basically being on Reddit half my shift and just saying hello, how are you, and take care for the other half of my shift. I can't even fathom. Now, I actually caught up with this guy and found out he meant $264,000 per year, not per month. Because I was going to say, if he was already making $26,000 a month for being what sounds like a glorified greeter, then sign me up. Give me an application for that job.
Yeah, like who is that company? What's that guy's email real quick? Hold on. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Be like, dude.
Well, he's not going to be making. He's going to be in the same category as the guy that said 10 times 0 is 0. Because I'm telling his boss he's on Reddit.
He's on Reddit. All day. Get off the internets.
We've got audio clips. Yeah, audio clips from a couple people. So let's Jason McNeil. He is a photographer, a friend of mine. Let's see what Jason has to say.
For me, if I were to make 10 times more on a job, the first thing I would do is probably buy my wife a new wedding ring and save up money to send my parents off to their wonderful trip for their anniversary, and maybe buy some new camera equipment and get money set aside to photograph someone like Beyonce or Nina Dobrev. That's really it. Everything else is going to savings.
I like this guy.
I love Jason. Jason, thanks for giving the answer. That is an awesome answer.
Yeah, he's definitely got a goal. He is already an established photographer and he's doing his thing. So, the little things like giving his wife a ring that is just awesome.
It's just
'Cause
little
it's not gonna
splurges. It's like,
Yeah.
if I've got a couple extra dollars, I want to do right by the people that I love, which I can totally respect. You would definitely want to do some of those things. But it's not
Right,
like
not
I'm
like buying
getting
a
a
house.
right. But it's not like he's getting a jet ski with gold spinners on it. He's got very specific things that he wants to get. And then
Right.
he's thinking about investing in his future.
Right, in his own business, so, like, he can potentially take that whatever he makes a year, say it's 100,000, 10 years from now it could be $1,000,000.
Right. He's thinking of the next step of okay, I'm making times 10, but I want to make times 100. So how do I get to that step by investing the 10? And
Right.
by photographing somebody like Beyonce or Amina Dobrev, if you don't know who Nina Dobrev is, she is an actress, and she was on The Vampire Diaries. She was also in the movie Let's Be Cops, and she was on Degrassi, The Next Generation.
What?
Yeah. So
I didn't know that
yeah,
one.
yeah. I mean, adding your name to being a photographer of somebody that is like that would definitely get your name out there more.
Right. Do you think that Drake calls her and is like, "You used to call me on my..."
She didn't, though.
No? Okay, I didn't think so either.
She didn't call.
They had pagers back then, so. We've got one more, don't we?
Oh, we do. We do have another one. This one is from Tristan Johnson. He was on Reddit, and he sent me a clip, so let's go ahead and listen to that as well.
So if I made 10 times the amount of money, what would I do now? See, for me, that would be about $180,000 a year because I live below the poverty line, and so that would probably not be all that interesting. It puts me solidly an upper middle class, so I probably take the time I'm in grad school to invest in something so it's worth a lot of money, or it's a turnkey operation once I'm done. All right, sounds good.
Okay. So, Tristan.
So Tristan is making he's in grad school. Thank you for the answer, Tristan. Thank you for sending that in. This is actually a good topic of conversation. So Tristan's in grad school, and it sounds like he wants to invest in a company or something that will make him residual income in the future. But he's currently making about $18,000 a month. That's because he said he would be making $180,000. But he also didn't sound too thrilled that he would be making $180,000. He said that it would put him in middle class, upper middle class.
Well, upper middle class, and that's where I had a little source of contention thinking about, like, where do you live where $180,000 a year is not good enough when you're making $18,000 a year now
Right.
in your job. Like, what the
that was my question was
circumstances,
it
you know?
depends on the people that you're surrounded by. So obviously he's in area where there's like-minded people that maybe they're all making, once they get out of grad school or they're back in further education for even more schooling, they're making significant amounts of money. So if you compare $180,000 to $350,000 or $500,000 a year, then yeah, that's significantly less. That affords you a lot less opportunity. But to compare
I don't know.
$18,000 to $180,000 and kind of scoff at that, I didn't really understand. So I went and I looked at middle class, what the definition of middle class is for each state, and wouldn't you know it, Maryland happens to have the highest amount of income that you would have to earn in order to be part of middle class.
And the minimum wage in Maryland is $8.25, so take that into account.
It's a significant gap. So in Maryland, to be in the lower bound of the middle class, you have to be making at least $48,322 per year.
Wow.
Right.
That's the lower bound?
That's the lower bound. The lower bound for the lowest state, which is Mississippi, is $25,000 and $25,309. So
you're talking about, if you, going back to the metric we had earlier, if you're doing it at 17,000, I think it was, for minimum wage, you can't even meet the minimum requirement for the lower income state
Yeah,
in Maryland.
exactly.
What's the highest in Maryland?
For the upper bound of middle class, $144,966. So even at the highest bound, $180,000 way surpasses middle class.
Right. And I mean, considering for me, $180,000, I could do a lot with that in like 4 years, let alone 1 year. I mean, I'm just looking at the number. I wrote it down so I could just stare at it. I wrote 180,000 and then 18,000. And Jeff can see it. You guys can't, but I'm like, holy crap, man. What would you do with 180,000 a year?
There's 6 digits there.
There's 6. Isn't that the definition of a 6-figure?
I mean, you could potentially purchase a cheap home, renovate it, and sell it in 1 year with that salary.
You could, well, you could do the smart way and just invest that in multiple homes, but that's not even going there. But that's a lot of money. So I mean, holy
Well,
crap,
I've seen a
man.
bunch of TED Talks about this too, and they talk about how does money buy happiness? And to an extent it does, but what they say the magic number is $75,000 per year. So once you hit that $75,000 per year, you can take care of your family, you can take care of a home, you can take care of all of those unexpected things that might happen and still have a little extra over to save or to go on a vacation every year.
And that's not saying that you're spending $180,000 a year on things you don't need, like Gucci purses and Lamborghinis and stuff. We're talking about the normal, everyday American, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, Tristan, man, if you're gonna make more money, more power to you. But I think that you could do a lot with $180,000. And I mean, I'm not ragging on you or anything, but that's a very big increase. I mean, considering myself,
It
I'm
also
currently-
depends on where he lives too. That was another
Right.
thing that I thought about was it depends on where you're going to school. It depends on where you plan on living. If you're going to live in somewhere like LA, then the cost of living is much, much higher. If you're living on either of the coasts, the East or West Coast, if you're living in New York or LA, they're very expensive cities that you live in. And it depends on what you're going to
Right.
school for. If that's
Right,
where
that's
the work
true.
is, then that's where you have to live. And if you're making $180,000 and $100,000 or more of that is spent on housing and parking and food or whatnot, then yeah, you probably are going to have a lot less money.
Yeah, that's where financial advisors come in to play, man. Honestly, I mean, if he's going to invest his money and make a lot more money on that every year, and it's a safe investment, more power to him. But I don't think that it would be my first choice to take any of that money and invest it, because to me that's a perfect world situation. The same way as saying, well, I'm going to save all my money, that's also a perfect world situation, because not everybody can save that money or has the willpower, because you can say one thing and then another thing will happen.
It's just
I
certain
mean,
things are high risk, especially if you're
Right.
investing in an up-and-coming company that has the potential to be very successful and give you residual income. But what's to say that some other company comes along and does it better and then knocks that
Right.
one out of the water?
Right. I mean, if you've ever watched an episode of Shark Tank, that's one of their biggest things, is saying if you're going to invest in a company, you need to make sure that there isn't a competitive market enough so that it kind of devalues the rest of your profits.
Something
So,
that
I
can't
mean,
be replicated.
right. And it's hard. I mean, unless you're a multi-billionaire like Mark Cuban or something like that, you're not going to know how to invest. But if he's going to grad school and he's maybe becoming some kind of big shot guy, you might know, Tristan, more than I do about this, certainly, if you've thought about that. You use some phraseology in there that I didn't really understand until we decided to record this anyway. So more power to you. If you can do it, I'd say do it with 180,000, but I think you could spend it more.
Just remember,
You know.
mo money, mo problems.
No problems. That's right. So
Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this episode of the What If Podcast. The What If Podcast is a Free Bacon and Puppies production. For more daily content, be sure to go to youtube.com/freebaconandpuppies. I want to thank everyone for joining us. I'd also like to thank my co-host, Rob. Thanks for being hypothetical with me.
Oh, no problem, man. Anytime. I'm happy to be here.
And if you're still listening and want to be part of the next show, be sure to follow us on Twitter and respond when we ask, what if?